Man, am I excited to talk to you guys today about this new board from Acedeck. Acedeck sent over the ARES X3, which you see me riding right here, and it is absolutely super fun. This is such a unique board, and I'm really excited to just share all the ins and outs of it with you guys and tell you my thoughts on it. Thank you to Acedeck for sending this over, but know that I'm going to be brutally honest and tell you exactly what I like and don't like about the board, or if there are pros and cons or room for improvement, and I'm going to keep it real as I always try to do in my reviews. Alright, so first off, what is the use case of this board? Because that is the #1 thing you should be looking at when you're buying a board, choosing a board, building a board, whatever, is like, where are you going to use this board? So the ARES X3 is a 4-wheel drive board, but it's running direct drive motors, okay? So direct drive means that on the actual truck is a motor, and then directly connected to that motor is a wheel. There's no gearing, there's no belt to change your ratios or anything, so the power of the motor, it's like a 1-to-1. There is no mechanical advantage going on through like gearing. So you can think of it kind of like a single speed bike almost, like the one gear is all you got. So the use case on this board is a street board. This is not going to go in the dirt. It's not built for that. This is meant for ripping around on the streets. With that being said, let's start out and talk about the deck. Now the deck is inspired by like downhill decks, downhill skateboarding, and I really love it. It is such a cool shape. It's got like this really cool pointed nose to it, and then in the back it's a squared off tail. It has mild drop down, and it's got kind of everything about it is mild on top. The concave is mild. It's got a little bit of W concave, which means that in the center of the board and like this along down the spine of the board, there's a little bit of like a higher spot, and that goes into kind of the arch of your foot. Makes it really comfortable, but the deck itself is slick, man. It is a unibody carbon fiber design, and it is beautiful. The grip tape on it, the design is very elegant, I would say. It's not like over the top outrageous. I like that they didn't laser cut it all crazy, that it's just like a sheet but with a design on it. That way there's no points on the deck where you're not getting grip. I would say that towards the front there's a little bit of like a cutout that I think they could have gone a little bit further with the grip tape, but we're nitpicking there. The grip tape itself is actually really gritty and feels like pretty substantial in the amount of like grab it has on your shoes, so I really dig that. I really like just kind of the design of it. I love the shape of this deck. I think it's so cool looking. It kind of reminds me of like a blade or something. It's a really, I don't know, it's a very attractive shape. All right, so what's inside the deck? Inside the deck, you've got 2 ESCs. Each one is a 50 amp ESC, which means that you're putting 25 amps to each motor. And then you're at a 14S 3P battery configuration, so it's a little higher voltage than like a 12S. And it's using P42As, pretty much the best in the industry, you know, depending on the setup. But for this, absolutely excellent cells. It's what I run in my, my Venom board that I built, and it's very common, obviously, in the industry. You're able to get this board up to 37 miles an hour. I haven't done it yet, I'll be honest. I don't have a ton of experience on street wheels. I don't ride street wheels that much. I've always been more of like a pneumatic tire guy. I like them a little bit more. But I'm really digging riding Thanes on this board. It's pretty dang fun, and I think it's just this magic combination that this board has, and I'll get to that in a minute. But on street wheels, you can get the board up to 37 miles an hour. I've gotten it up to about 33, so I'm right underneath there, but a little bit more time on it, and the right road and surface, I'll push it up to the 37, I'm sure, no problem. And they're quoting about a 31-mile range. Now, I haven't done a full range test on this board, but I bet you can get that. I mean, street wheels are so efficient compared to like pneumatics that as long as you're not jamming the whole time, I bet you can get that. Range though, I don't talk about it that much usually because it is so subjective based on where you live, the temperature, how much you weigh, are you going uphill a lot, is there a lot of wind, but they're saying 31 miles with the board. One of the really nice things about this deck is that it's a split angle design. What does split angle mean? So the angle of your kingpin bolts in your trucks is what dictates how much the actual truck turns based on when you lean. So if you have a 0 degree angle truck, meaning that your kingpin is straight up and down, and you lean, it will not articulate the truck at all. You'll have no turn at all. So the trucks themselves are 45-degree angle trucks, and then the deck though has a +5-degree like kind of lift in the nose that you can see here, and then in the rear it has a -5-degree dip down. So you're -5 in the back and you're +5 in the front, so that puts you at about a 50-degree in the front, and that puts you at a 40-degree in the rear. So with that, what that's really doing though, what a split angle does is that it reduces the amount of steer that's happening in the rear of the board and increases, if you increase more of the degree in the front, it increases the amount of turn in the front. So think of it like a car. A car doesn't steer from the rear, it only steers from the front. So if a car had degrees, it would be 0 degree in the rear and it would be like, I don't know, 1,000 in the front or whatever, because you have a ton of steer, right? So that gives you an idea of like why they're doing this. You're reducing the rear and you're increasing the front, and that's gonna give you more stability, but not reduce your carvability. So it's a really nice balance. As long as you get those numbers and the equation kind of right, you can fine tune in how things kind of work and how the board feels. I've felt up to 33 miles an hour completely stable on this board. I really dig it. It's a nice amount of split, and I don't feel like they push to the front too high. Sometimes people will try to push that front angle really high, and then you end up like it's almost twitchy. With this, I felt like super solid on the stability on the board and still very carvy. Like I really dig riding this board around. The ESCs are really nice. They give you the ability to turn on the board and off the board from the remote. If you just turn it on, the board turns on. You don't have to flip it over and turn on the ESCs. Now you do have to do that if you haven't turned your board on within 24 hours. Kind of an interesting little piece there. To charge the board, you lift up this little connector that's on the top of the board. It's a rubber connector, and it exposes the port inside the truck that will charge the board. Now, way back on the first ARES, a lot of people, including myself, did not like this design because it was so hard to get the rubber cap to either go back in. It was just really fiddly. You couldn't get it to go back in. Since then, Acedeck has changed the type of connection. It's not a barrel connection anymore. It's like this 3-prong connector. And because of that, and they redesigned the rubber, it's really easy now finally to like close that cap. So you're not gonna be sitting there fiddling. So now I really like that it's on top and in the truck. You don't have to flip your board over. You're not trying to find the port. You just pop that rubber cap open and boom, you're charging your board. The top plates on the trucks are super clean. They're all CNC'd. They look really cool. It's got cool patterns in it. I dig it. Every little angle on this board has really been thought through, and I really, really like that. Very thoughtful design. The TKP trucks, I really like TKPs. Like, it means traditional kingpin. It was like one of the first, if not the first truck design. Originally it was on roller skates way back in the day, which is crazy, but it gives you a good amount of carve while retaining a good amount of stability. And then you add in the split angle deck design, and this board is stable but carvy. Love it. It's a really nice balance of like kind of both worlds. The 97mm wheels that are on this board are pretty good. I felt like they're pretty grippy. They're not, they're not the super best street wheel, but you can swap wheels on it. The board comes with ABEC adapters, so any ABEC wheel will fit on this. And you can also buy from Acedeck Kegel adapters. So you can run your Kagwamas, or you can run some Mad wheels. That's what I'm thinking about doing, is maybe slapping some Mad wheels on this thing. I think that would be really, really nice. But you can put whatever you want on it then. The bushings on the trucks are 96A. Those are pretty stiff. Now this board can handle a 440-pound rider, so it makes sense that they put a stiffer bushing on. I kind of wish they threw in a few extra bushings in there, but you can go to Riptide, grab some bushings, slap them in there, and totally change how the board rides. You get really nice cup washers on the bushings as well, so that's gonna again give you a little bit more stability, because what that does is it actually limits the amount that the bushing can like widen out when you're carving. So that makes it, once again, you get a little bit more stability at high speeds, and that's a nice thing to have, because man, if you hit a sketchy amount of stability when you're at a really high speed, it's no fun. I've had 0 speed wobbles on this board. Not to say that you can never have them by any means, but I have not experienced any wobbles at all. The board has stainless steel kingpins, stainless steel axles, so they're using premium quality parts in the board. They're CNC'd almost everything that they can, it seems. Like the trucks are CNC'd. I think the ESC heat sinks are CNC'd. The top plates are CNC'd. And that just lends it to be a very unique board and something that's built, you know, strong. So now let's talk about the motors. The motors, it supposedly puts out 6,000 watts of power. What does that really mean? It means it's a pretty powerful board. Now, direct drive, like I was talking about earlier, it doesn't have the advantage of using gearing to produce more torque, less torque, higher speed, whatever. You can't fine tune it like that. And in the past, direct drive have been okay because you can't really get the torque level that a lot of people want. Now, those were always two-wheel drive boards. This is a four-wheel drive board. And I think that that was, you know, very thoughtful that they were like, if we're gonna build a direct drive board, let's make it four-wheel drive so that it actually can produce the torque that people want nowadays in an electric skateboard. Now, I can easily launch this board in Sport Plus. That's the highest power level. There's low, eco, sport, and Sport Plus. But I like that. Having a board that's like so crazy fast off the line that you can't launch it is like, I don't know, it's a cool party trick, but you don't get to use the board as much in like the higher settings. So I dig that on this, I can still just jam it. Now I was riding it around mostly in sport because that takes off that kind of little bit of that edge of that Sport Plus, but I have no problem riding around in Sport Plus also. It's awesome. Four-wheel drive again comes into play when you talk about braking. This board brakes super well because all four wheels are braking. Just like a car, you don't have only brakes in the rear, and 60% of your braking power in any device, bicycle, skateboard, car, comes from the front, not the rear. It's a lot easier to slow an object down if you have braking happening in the front of it as opposed to just in the rear. So I love the braking on this thing. It's super smooth, the power delivery is super smooth, and I just really dig it. So like, why would you even want a direct drive board? Here's a couple reasons. Number one, it's almost silent. When I'm riding this thing, I don't hear the motors. I hear just the wheels on the ground, and I hear my entire environment. So it'd be good for areas where you're worried about like cars and different things like that. Also, it's just nice to get lost in my environment and not hear my board. I ride a lot of very loud boards. My Stooge race board is the loudest thing ever. Like, Amy can hear it, my wife can hear it inside the house when I ride by. It's so loud. This board, people don't even, it's crazy quiet. It's so cool. So I really dig that, like, I can go out, I just want to zone out and have a good time and not worry about any of that. Like, I don't know, there's just something cool about being able to connect to my environment a little bit more while I'm cruising around. And because it's a direct drive, there's no rolling resistance almost. It's like almost zilch. So when you let off the throttle, there's no like jerk that you get from like a over tight belt drive. Gear drives have almost no rolling resistance also, but there's still a little. Direct drive, I feel like have the lowest rolling resistance. Like I could kick push this board around if I wanted to. Now it's still heavy, so I probably won't be doing that, but it's really, really cool. And because the board's silent, because it's got that low rolling resistance, it feels just like this magic skateboard. It feels like I'm on a regular board other than the weight, and it's just powered and it's just it's very, very cool. I really dig that. Another really nice thing about direct drive motors is there's less going on the board. So what I mean by that is like there's no gears that are like clunky and, you know, when you're picking it up and stuff. There's no belts that are gonna catch on anything. Like if you're carrying the board, it makes it easy to just like throw it under your arm and walk with the board. So what do you get with the board? You get the remote and charging cable. You get the actual charger for the board itself. You get a T-tool, you get a couple Allen wrenches, you get a whole bag of bolts. I love that Acedeck does this. They give you a bag of bolts, so if you accidentally strip a bolt or you're changing something and you lose a bolt, you have more nuts and bolts, which is super cool. Every brand should be doing this. You get the manual that tells you about the board, the functions of the remote, different things like that, which is great to go over, especially if you've never been on an e-skate before. You get the board, the wheels, and the ABAC adapters that are on the motor already. It's already assembled when you get it. You just pull it out, charge it up, and ride. The board is IP65 water resistant rating. When you look at the bottom of the board, there's really not a lot of areas that water could get in because everything for the battery and everything is through the top. So because of that, you have a pretty waterproof board. I wouldn't ride this thing in like the rain. Honestly, I don't know why you wouldn't want to ride a street wheel board in the rain. You're gonna die. But like other than around the ESC, which all has silicone sealant inside, so I don't imagine any water getting in it, any of this stuff. Like if you go through like a little puddle, you go through like a little thing like that, it's no big deal. It'll be fine. And you're good to go. The board also charges in 3 hours, which is awesome. Now the range isn't giant, but when you're charging that quickly, like that's not too bad. 3 hours isn't that bad. I'm pretty stoked on that. So now let's keep it real. Let's talk about the areas I think maybe they could improve a little bit. What areas do I think are maybe a little lacking, or what could they offer a little bit more for, you know, a higher value in the board? So the deck, I love it. I do wish it had just like a tiny bit more drop down, just a little bit more of a positive kind of feeling to be able to feel like locked in with your rear foot. It wasn't the end of the world, but like I'm just so used to like a heavy drop down that like not having that again felt a little strange for me. But that's all personal preference, but a little bit more drop down would be kind of cool. So if they bring out a new one of these, maybe next year or the next version or whatever, a little bit more drop down would be nice. Let's see, I would like other bushings. Like I said, I'd like to have bushing options, just either come with the board or let me choose while I'm purchasing the board if I want a little softer bushing. Ultimately, would be super awesome is if Acedeck worked with Riptide. Even if it was like, I would pay extra to Acedeck right off the bat if I could just be like, yeah, I want the Riptide bushings for this board, because Riptides are just so nice. I'd love to see them just include the Kegel adapters with the board. It's probably just to keep the cost down, but it'd be nice to have that in there so that depending on the wheels you already own, you can just use the board and swap out those wheels. Right now, it only comes with the ABEC adapter, or maybe release it where it comes with the, you know, you could choose or something. That would be cool. So my overall feeling on this board is it's really, really nice. I love the carve, I love the ride, and I'm not a Thane rider. I don't ride a lot of urethane, I don't ride a lot of street wheels, and I was like, man, this is so much fun. Like, all right, I get it. Like, I wanna ride this thing even more. It's super cool, but the magic combination of using a 4-wheel drive direct drive setup makes it this silent, magical board that I can ride around and just feel like connected, like I said, to my environment, zone out on like my problems in life, and just have a great time riding. If you guys have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. I'd be happy to answer them. If you haven't yet subscribed, use my code down below to help out the channel a little bit, and I'll see you guys in the next ride.